Gunter from the all-new early game joining us to break down South Carolina, NC State, 3 o'clock Eastern Time, ESPN on Saturday. Should be an interesting matchup. Mid-tier teams are what's projected to be mid-tier teams. Who knows in the ACC and the SEC. And one last thing for you, Will, would be generally what's been the rhetoric in regards to the importance of this game? Because some teams talk about these early season matchups when there aren't huge expectations, when it's not Ohio State, Oklahoma, Alabama, Florida State. Hey, we got to win every game practically. But talk about these games as, it's a barometer. We're going to see where we are. It's not the end of the world. It's not conference play. Sure, we're going to go out there, try to win the game. But, hey, we live for another week. Let's not put all our eggs in one basket and put so much emphasis on this game. But other times it's like, hey, we want to break through. We want to be a better program. We want to be considered a contender. This is a barometer. This is an important game. We really want to win this, and you got the added ACC SEC thing added into this with the ACC proclaimed as the best conference in college football coming into 2017, and then you got the regional factor. These schools are pretty close.
Well, I think these two teams, these two head coaches are on different planes right now. Dave Doeren enters his 5th year, and we were just talking about again how 11 months ago, 10 months ago, if he loses to North Carolina in the final game of their regular season, they go 5-7. Maybe he's looking for new employment. So I think from that standpoint, the game for North Carolina State is about showing that they're ready to take the next step, that they're moving up in class, that they're ready to try and compete with Clemson and Florida State and Louisville. Last year, they have Clemson beat, they had Florida State beat. They let those games get away from them. They were run out of the building by Louisville. So I think from a North Carolina State perspective, this game is Dave Doeren's opportunity to show, hey, in year 5, all these guys are my players. Our program's ready to take the next step. For Will Muschamp, it's a recruiting game. Number one, they like going into the state of North Carolina, and they want to recruit against North Carolina State, and schools of that nature. And, you have an opportunity here to maybe get some attention and show, hey, we're better. Our program's on a different plane, heading in a different direction than North Carolina State. I think also from a national perception, it's again, Will Muschamp still battling the perception of his Florida days. And so he needs his offense to look good. And he needs to come out and get a win. There's still people who say, well, all right, you went 6-7 in your first year, but was this really a good hire by South Carolina? And for Will Muschamp, this is kind of one of those games that if he loses, people are probably going to go, well, that seems about right. If he wins, I think people kind of do a double take with South Carolina because of the preseason hype that North Carolina State's getting. I think people do a double take and say, okay, maybe Will Muschamp is building something in South Carolina. I saw ESPN analyst Dari Nokwa earlier this week talk about how Will Muschamp could take South Carolina's talent level to unprecedented height because of the way he recruits. This is a recruiting game. You win this game, you're off to 1-0 start. Regardless of what happens next week at Missouri, South Carolina should come back to Columbia. If they're 1-1, people around here are still going to be very fired up, very excited, ready to see the home opener. You lose this one and you lose next week and you're 0-2, that first home night game might not have the kind of recruiting atmosphere that you want. So I think for Will Muschamp, it's a huge opportunity to really cement his program or stamp something on his program that, hey, they are heading in the right direction. For Dave Doeren, it's an opportunity to show, hey, our program has arrived. We can beat a team like South Carolina. We're ready to compete with the likes of Clemson. And not necessarily South Carolina's on that level, but, hey, we're better than the mid-tier programs now. We're ready to try and compete for conference championships.
I think it's a really good point about Will Muschamp and the perception of his program and where it's headed, just because if you just look at the black and white and the wins and losses, you say, okay, 3-9, then they go 6-6, go to overtime in a bowl game. Hey, that's definite improvement. No question. Who cares what happens in this game or in terms of the perception of what he's done? But on the flip side, you can always say, hey, everything went wrong for that 2015 team. Injuries, transition of coaching. It was just a mess. It just became a mess, and they were just trying to fight to get through the season. Anybody could have stepped in and got to 6 wins, and that's what you should do at South Carolina. Basement, 6 wins. So it is key in terms of Will Muschamp moving on, and then having to go on the road for that conference opener is a difficult task, even though it is Mizzou. Again, we don't know a whole lot about these teams, and especially the lower tier teams coming into 2017, besides Drew Lock and some playmakers at running back and wide receiver for the Tigers. All right, Will Gunter from the all-new early game. Join him on 107.5 The Game, breaking down the Gamecocks and the Wolfpack. Should be one of the better games over the weekend. Will, we always appreciate it.
I always enjoy it. It's finally here. I stayed up late watching games last night, so it's nap time today before more games this weekend.